Tonight, jailed for a total of 147 years. 7 men are sentenced for shooting Neil Canny at his mother's doorstep in Greenock. A resident at a Falkirk asylum seeker hotel faces sexual indecency charges. Also on tonight's programme, Lossiemouth residents say flames from a quarry fire came terrifyingly close to their homes.
I live just the other side of that trees over there, and I was, oh my God, you know, how close is that? But I'm terrified is probably an understatement, really.
A teenager has been charged in connection with several fires.
Coming up in tonight's sports, Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers hits back at the club leak who claimed he wanted to leave, calling it a cowardly action.
I was like, John, who's this guy here, right, like behind my mum and dad? And he's like, I have not got a clue.
We reunite Michelle with the mystery man who accidentally crashed her wedding. I'm Laura Goodwin and this is Reporting Scotland. Seven men have been jailed for life and will spend a total of nearly 150 years in prison for shooting dead a man on his mum's doorstep. 8 bullets were fired as Neil Canny opened the door at the house in Greenock, with one hitting him in the head. Prosecutors say they don't know who pulled the trigger, but today all 7 men were jailed for his murder. Gillian Sharp has the story.
Neil Canny was just 37 years old when he was shot dead. He'd opened the front door believing a friend was part of the group outside. Instead, several shots were fired inside as his family hid. Prosecutors say it isn't possible to say who pulled the trigger, but all the assailants had teamed up in a criminal plan. Just visible beyond the white van, 6 figures can be seen fleeing the scene just after the shooting. Afterwards, one of the gang is seen entering a garage and buying crisps. Judge Lady Drummond said this was a brutal attack planned in advance, leaving Neil Canny's family with utter heartbreak at their loss. 6 men were found guilty of murder and attempted murder after a trial. Another man, Kieran Meehan, had earlier pled guilty to murder. Sentences ranged from minimum terms of 17 to 24 years. Among those sentenced were Brendan Ballach on the top left, Dale Russell to his right. Below them, Jack Benson on the left and Martin McCusker. Also sentenced were Kieran Hendry and Michael Monroe. Prosecutors say it's only by luck that no one else inside was hit by the indiscriminate fire that night, saying the sentences are a strong message to others involved in this kind of criminal behaviour that you cannot hide from justice. Gillian Sharp, Reporting Scotland, Greenock.
A man staying in a hotel in Falkirk, which houses asylum seekers, is to stand trial accused of sexual indecency. 23-year-old Saeed Ajid denies flashing, performing sex acts and making obscene gestures towards 2 local people from a window at the Hotel Claddon. Stephen Godden reports.
Saeed Ajid appeared at Falkirk Sheriff Court earlier today. He followed proceedings via a Kurdish interpreter.
Prosecutors allege the 23-year-old behaved indecently at the Claddon Hotel on a number of occasions between June and August this year. He's accused of flashing, performing sex acts and making obscene gestures towards 2 people, a man and a woman, from a window at the hotel. He denies the charges and his bail has been continued ahead of a trial scheduled to begin in November.
The Claddon Hotel in Falkirk has been housing asylum seekers since 2022. In recent weeks, it's been the focus of protests involving rival pro- and anti-immigration demonstrators. Earlier this week, police launched an investigation after a brick was thrown through a window at the hotel. Stephen Gordon, Reporting Scotland, Falkirk.
Inverness Caledonian Thistle is no longer in administration after agreements were reached with its creditors. The club got into difficulty last year after running up large debts. Businessman Alan Savage has now taken full control of the Scottish League One club and says he believes it has a bright future. Ailey Davis reports.
Given the cash deficit, we've had to take some fairly unfortunate decisions over the last 24 hours.
A year ago, this club looked very different. Relegation, financial difficulties, fan unrest and then administration meant the club's very existence was hanging in the balance. But the club is undergoing new leadership, with financial interests experiencing a turnaround.
Well, it's all about location, isn't it? And this is probably the best located football club in the world. You know, we've got a unique mascot in Nessie. And we've got 8 acres to develop of car parks. So I think we can generate interest, we can generate income. We can start the North Coast 500 from here. We can have park and ride to the Newcastle venture. We maybe get a couple of 5-a-side pitches undercover. So there's a few ideas I've got, but I'll need support to do it. But I think the governmental bodies and other businesses can help.
As the club embraces a new era, even the shop is undergoing a bit of a resurgence, with these new shirts flying off the shelves, with fans happy to back the club.
Alan Savage deserves a lot of praise and a lot of thanks from every Caley Thistle supporter for what he's done. There was a lot of interest in the football club, but only one man really stepped forward and put his money where his mouth is, and he's done that. And if it wasn't for Alan Savage, I hate to think where the football club could have ended up.
Despite being docked points both last season and this season due to administration, things on the pitch are also looking up.
We're trying to keep climbing up the table, trying to get back to where we think we should be, you know. So, no, listen, it's been a roller coaster. It's been eventful, you know. There's been a few upsets along the way, but there's been some good times as well, even in dark days. So that's what we're trying to build at the football club again. So, no, we'll keep trying to be positive as much as we can going forward.
And what about the club's aspirations for the future?
I think that probably the ambition is, the classic is, we're just trying to win the next game. I think we've got to be careful that we don't get carried away. But we've got a good squad, a well-balanced squad. There's no reason we can't do well.
It's been a tough year, but the future of Inverness Caley Thistle certainly appears to be brighter. Ailey Davis reporting Scotland, Inverness.
The Scottish Secretary has accused the First Minister of playing politics over talks with the US on whisky tariffs. John Swinney was at the White House lobbying Donald Trump this week and says he's created the opportunity for a deal. But Douglas Alexander says this has been a long-term priority of trade negotiators. Well, our political correspondent Phil Sim is in Edinburgh for us this evening. Phil, what is the latest?
Well, it's been a big week in the political spotlight for the whisky industry. First, John Swinney was raising their concerns in the Oval Office with the President. Today, he's had them into Bute House here in Edinburgh for talks about their concerns, hearing that in greater detail. They've also had a meeting with the Secretary of State for Scotland, putting their case to him. Obviously, all sides are hoping for a favourable outcome in terms of wiping away barriers to trade. The industry says the current tariffs cost them about £4 million a week. But we are also seeing two governments increasingly jockeying for position in terms of who could take credit for any deal that's done. Yesterday, the First Minister was clear that he had opened the door, he had created the opportunity for an agreement with Donald Trump. But today, Douglas Alexander insisted that it has always been a high priority.
Long before John Swinney arrived in the Oval Office, we were talking with and engaging with the US administration on the issue of whisky. So I welcome the fact that John was in Washington. Frankly, if we have divisions at home, we will be less influential abroad. But the reality is we shouldn't be playing politics with people's jobs and the prospects for the Scotch whisky industry.
So, Phil, the two governments are meant to be working together on this, but clearly there are political tensions too.
Absolutely. You know, they're working to a common goal here, but these are still domestically two rival parties with an election only 8 months away in Scotland. You know, it was a political coup for John Swinney to have these talks in Washington. It means he's effectively been able to position himself as the face of any potential deal on whisky. And I think the UK government is belatedly realising that they have to get into the game, because it's fair to reflect that they have been running these negotiations for months. They did facilitate this meeting in America, but what they haven't been doing is making the political arguments to take the credit for that. That's why we've seen Douglas Alexander saying this about political point scoring. Frankly, that's what you usually hear from politicians who have been outscored. When we asked the Scottish Government about this today, they simply said that John Swinney is fully focused on getting a zero tariff deal for the Scotch whisky industry.
OK, Philson, many thanks. A teenager has been charged in connection with a spate of fires around a disused quarry in Moray. The latest incident at Sunbank Quarry in Lossiemouth broke out last night. It comes after 3 other fires in the same area over the past 3 weeks. Rebecca Curran reports.
At its height, last night's fire in Lossiemouth was ferocious. Flames rose above the treetops, creeping dangerously close to nearby homes, and thick smoke billowed across the town. It's a dramatic sight that's becoming all too familiar.
Here we go again, yeah. Just so frustrated for the local community. It just doesn't seem to end. I live just the other side of that trees over there, and I was, oh my God, how close is that? But I'm terrified is probably an understatement, really.
There have been several fires here over the past few weeks, and you can see just how much damage has been caused and just how close the flames got to these people's homes.
Today, firefighters remain at the scene, dampening down hotspots. They battled through the night to bring the blaze under control. Peter Mitchell lives nearby and says the fires have put the entire community on edge.
I had to pick up my bairns from school, and then you're coming down, you're just seeing a big cloud of smoke over the house, and you're thinking, well, I hope it doesn't hit any of the house, not just mine, but like everyone round about here. As you can see, there's houses all round about, so it's scary stuff.
Oh my gosh, look how bright it is.
Police say a 16-year-old boy has been arrested and charged in connection with several willful fire raisings in and around the Sunbank Quarry area. The teenager has been released on an undertaking and will appear in court at a later date. Rebecca Curran, reporting Scotland, Lossiemouth.
Now on tonight's News at 7 on BBC Scotland, they'll be looking at how Highland hill walkers are being asked to keep an eye out for meteorite fragments that have landed on some of the most remote Munros. Scientists believe they could help us understand important things about the universe.
If it's what we think it is, it's likely a rock that's older than planet Earth itself, and all the minerals and materials in it basically are the building blocks of planets. So if we study this rock, if we find it and able to study it, it can tell us basically about the origins of planet Earth, how planet Earth came to be, and how our asteroid and wider solar system have formed and evolved.
Some of the day's other stories. It's emerged no official regulator had the power to inspect Scotland's biggest children's psychiatric hospital during a 7-year period in which staff were accused of cruelty to patients. The Mental Welfare Commission, an advisory body, visited Skye House between 2017 and 2024 but had no enforcement powers. Inspections by a regulator only began after a BBC investigation. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde says its board is awaiting recommendations. An engineering fault is being blamed for the blades falling from a 77-metre high wind turbine in the early hours of this morning. It happened at the offices of insurance company Aviva in Perth. Fire services attended around 2 o'clock this morning. The turbine has been operational for less than a year. Deep-sea corals, which have been growing on oil and gas platforms in the North Sea for decades, are being relocated in an effort to save them as the sites are decommissioned. Scientists have been working with the offshore industry to remove the corals from the subsea structures. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
Slowly, delicately, and controlled from a ship on the surface, this robot removes a small piece of coral from the legs of a giant oil rig. It falls into a basket and the process is repeated before several of these living creatures are brought ashore. For 4 months in the summer, the coral was kept alive here at the St Abbs Marine Station in the Borders. Mainly in the dark, the water had to be kept clean and at a constant temperature of about 8 degrees to stand a chance of survival. But it afforded an opportunity to see close up the tiny tentacles reaching out of the hard shells to feed.
These species are very slow growing and they grow up to 5 to 25 millimeters a year. So even though we were able to just keep them like without stress, it takes decades and decades and decades to actually rebuild.
When the time came, the coral were attached to these artificial concrete reefs using cable ties, before being lowered 500 metres onto the seabed. It's not just the corals that will benefit from this move. Their shells provide a haven of shelter for a whole range of species.
What do you think that could look like in 50, 100 years' time?
I think we should look at the oil platforms and look now 50 years of growth on those platforms. They're starting to look a lot like natural reefs. We see more live coral cover on the platforms than we do on typical natural reefs. So we're starting, I'm hoping we're going to see something like that. And then over time, the rocks and the natural hard grounds west of Shetland, we'll start to see corals growing there too.
Experts say these corals once carpeted large areas of the North Sea before industrial fishing wiped them out. They hope the reef will grow and spread from these small structures, allowing the species to thrive once more. Kevin Keane reporting Scotland.
Right, time now to get on tonight's sport with Lewis. Is it quiet? You're going to say no.
It's never quiet, Laura. Usually the international break, things do quieten down, but not for a couple of clubs in Glasgow in particular.
Good news for you.
Exactly, thanks, Laura. Hello there, yes. Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers has hit back at claims that he's been trying to engineer an exit from the club, calling for an investigation into what he called a cowardly insider who briefed against him to a newspaper. Rodgers was speaking at a media conference today, but the BBC was not invited. When asked about the unnamed source, he said his honest take was that it was a cowardly action. He went on to say that he struggled to understand why they would do it, but he wasn't surprised as he believed it has happened before. On his frustrations at the club's transfer dealings this summer, he said it didn't make him think to walk away, it just made him feel empty. Rodgers said it was a long process and he felt the weight on his shoulders. Well, this all comes as some Celtic fans plan to hold a protest at their match against Kilmarnock on Sunday by not arriving in the ground until the 12th minute. We spoke to some supporters today to get their thoughts.
I'm a wee bit neutral with that because I think they don't want to affect the team. I mean, at the end of the day, if a team goes down, everybody else start moaning. So I think they should be very, very careful with that.
12 minutes, we're not going to have a bit of full support, so don't have agree with that. But I still think there is an element of support that we need to protest a bit with the way things are going at the moment.
I'm happy for it. I think there does need to be change with the board.
Just the clamour for transfers after we were out of the Champions League just doesn't make sense. It seems dragging our heels.
It's a split thing, isn't it? Because the club's run very, very well, apart from this aspect of getting players in. You know, nobody could criticise the way they run the club.
Over at Rangers now, and head coach Russell Martin says Nico Raskan has to earn the trust of teammates after confirming the midfielder won't be in the squad to face Hearts tomorrow. The Belgian international was one of the Ibrox side's key players last season, but was left out of the goalless draw with Celtic before the international break. Martin insists the situation is resolved, but there's still work for the player to do.
He won't be in the squad tomorrow. We have a lot of conversations, as we do with every player. But he's back training with the squad, which is a good step. And now, like every player really, has a duty to make sure that he earns the trust of all his other teammates and the coaching staff and the staff in the building to help us win football matches. It's the same for every player here. I think the most important thing is that Nico knows why, the players know why, and we all move forward. And we have to win football matches now, and he's part of a squad in training that needs to help that and put himself back in the squad and the team to help us win matches.
Kevin Nisbet here believes that Aberdeen fans are about to see the best of him as he begins his second spell at the club. The Scotland striker, who was at Pittodrie on loan last season, joined on a permanent deal from Millwall at the end of the window, and he says it was an easy decision to make.
I just really enjoyed my time here. I think I felt settled. I was settled in the changing room. I got on well with the changing room. And it's just a great club to be at. I don't think you really notice how big the club is until you actually come and play for it. And as soon as I got a taste of that, then obviously winning the Scottish Cup is a case of just want to get back on a longer term deal and just try and create more success.
Moving on to golf now, and 4 Scots have made the cut at the PGA Championship, with Richie Ramsey here just 3 shots off the lead at Wentworth. The golfer from Aberdeen carded a second round 69 and was the clubhouse leader for most of the day at 9 under. However, that position now belongs to Japan's Hideki Matsuyama at 12 under. Ewan Ferguson and Connor Syme are sticking around for the weekend, as is Robert McIntyre here, despite admitting that he wasn't coping well with the golf course as he readies up for the Ryder Cup in 2 weeks.
I'm not even taking any thought on how I'm putting here. I'll probably get Mike to set up tomorrow putting up the hill on the putting green so that I can actually get the ball to the hole. So I feel like my game's in good shape. Driving the ball absolutely superbly. So yeah, I'm in a good spot for going into Bethpage, just not in a great spot for this golf tournament.
Plenty golf to play. Rugby now, and Scotland captain Rachel Malcolm admits no one expects them to win when they play England in the World Cup quarter-final this weekend, but says as a squad they couldn't be more excited. After coming second in the group, Brian Eason's side are playing one of the tournament favourites in Bristol on Sunday afternoon, with a place in the last 4 at stake.
I think it is the biggest game of our career because we have a huge amount of belief in this team. Like Brian says, the performances have built week on week while we've been here, and I think to be at this stage, to be in the top 8 teams in the world in a competition is massive for not just this group but for Scotland women's rugby and the history of this game. And I think that it doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like an honour and a privilege that we want to go and do justice. So we're incredibly excited.
And finally, Josh Kerr says he's in Tokyo to win as he prepares to defend his 1500 metre title at the World Athletics Championships. The Edinburgh athlete got the better of rival Jakob Ingebrigtsen in Budapest 2 years ago, a year after his compatriot Jake Whiteman won the title in Oregon. They'll be joined by fellow Scot Neil Gourley in the lineup.
Feels like I know what I'm doing, and I'm just looking to come here and execute a similar plan to 2023, where, you know, I go out and I take the race and win it pretty dominantly. So, you know, I'm here to win. You know, I'm here to defend. It's a lot easier said than done. You know, you have to take it race by race and make sure that you respect the competition's abilities. But I'm feeling very confident going into this week.
Never short of confidence. And listen, fair play.
You need it.
You do need
Talk
it.
back. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Laura.
Now, for 4 years, it was a mystery for Michelle and John Wiley. Just who was the unknown man who appeared in their wedding photos? When family and friends drew a blank, they turned to the internet for answers and uncovered a tale of 2 hotels 2 miles apart and a confused guest too polite to walk out on the wrong wedding. We've reunited the bride and her mystery guest to speak to our reporter Hazel Martin.
Oh my gosh, you're not a ghost, you're real.
Andrew and Michelle, together for the first time since Michelle's wedding in 2021. Until this moment, they had never met. Michelle's ceremony was in Prestwick. Andrew was supposed to be at different nuptials 2 miles down the road in Ayr, only realising he was in the wrong place when it was too late.
I left the house, and me being me, I was running, not late, but I was cutting it very, very fine. The music starts, everyone stands up, everyone turns round in unison, and out comes Michelle. Just like, I've just got to roll with it at that point, because you can't exactly just get up and walk out of a wedding. So eventually the ceremony ends. Right as I lift myself out the seat, I hear somebody, "Can we get everybody together for some group photos, please?" And I'm just like, you see that picture at the end, it's everybody, and there's this big head at the back of the picture, and that's me, just like,
As the bride, Michelle Wiley was oblivious to her mystery guest on the day.
I had no clue on the day whatsoever. Walking down the aisle, didn't even notice him. It was just when I got the pictures back from the photographer, I was like, "John, who's this guy here, right, like behind my mum and dad?" And he's like, "I have not got a clue, no idea whatsoever." Eventually I thought, right, none of my friends, I've got enough friends to reach out and find out who this guy is. So I thought I'm going to message somebody that's got a lot of followers and see how far it can go, and hopefully we can try and find out who it is. Within 2 hours of it, we managed to find him. We commented on the post, which is just brilliant.
I see all these pictures of me circled, and who is this man? And initially I was afraid, I thought I was in trouble.
How did you feel knowing that you had solved it? It's such a relief finding out now I don't have a stalker, my husband doesn't have a stalker. It's just been a mistake.
And do you plan on keeping in touch?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah.
At least he didn't stay for the dinner. Michelle and Andrew ending that report from Hazel Martin. Right, time now for a look at the weather forecast with Christopher. Do you have good news for our weekend?
A bit of everything, actually. There's some rain around. There's also some sunshine at times as well. And brilliant picture there from one of our weather watchers overlooking the Isle of Arran. Let me show you what's happening, though, because it is a bit of a mixed bag through the course of this weekend, much like today, actually, with those fairly frequent showers which were thundery at times. and quite windy with it too in places. You can see a rash of thunderstorms down towards Dumfries and Galloway earlier. And with all those showers around, scores of rainbow photos coming into us today from our weather watchers. Thanks for those. Through the course of this evening, the showers fading away for a time. There'll be some dry conditions, some clear conditions, but through the early hours, this band of wet weather working its way through, giving a fairly soggy spell. Temperatures 7 to 9 Celsius. The winds continuing to ease down. That takes us to tomorrow. The overnight rain still with us from around about the Braes of Angus towards Inverness, clearing up towards the north and east. Some dry and fine weather behind it, but not for long. Showers in the west soon begin to work their way inland, giving us an afternoon of sunshine and showers again. And like today, some of those showers will be heavy, the odd rumble of thunder. Temperatures around 14 to 16 Celsius, so a cool feel, certainly feeling cool if you catch one of those showers. Not as windy around the west coast compared with recent days, but those showers will be frequent at times. And across Orkney and Shetland, after a fine sunny morning, the showers arrive through the afternoon. As we go into Saturday evening, the showers fade away, the winds fall light, and under clear skies it will be chilly. Temperatures mid-single digits, some mist and fog patches forming too. So that takes us to Sunday, and we've got this area of low pressure looming large in the Atlantic, sending weather fronts and rain our way, but not immediately. First thing, it's a dry start to Sunday. It's a chilly start, some mist and fog, as I mentioned, that should lift. And then as we go through towards lunchtime, cloud builds from the south, just turning that sunshine hazy, and the rain follows in towards the southwest during the afternoon. Holding on to the sunshine, though, further north and northeast. And of course, on Sunday, it's a big game down in Bristol for the Women's Rugby World Cup, with Scotland taking on England in the quarter-final. Probably quite wet, though, at kick-off around 4 o'clock. Coverage across the BBC, certainly here on BBC One. And then next week, that low pressure still with us on Monday, but beginning to pull away. And that means Monday is another unsettled and changeable day. In fact, quite windy through parts of central and southern Scotland. The black arrows, they're indicating wind gusts, frequent showers, squally in nature. Come Tuesday, that low pressure is clearing away, so chance to draw a breath. Something quieter, something brighter, sunnier, and just a little bit warmer, but certainly lots of weather before then. That's the forecast.
Christopher, thank you. Now, tonight's main news again. 7 men have been jailed for a total of 147 years for the murder of 37-year-old Neil Canny, who was shot on the doorstep of his mum's house in Greenock. And Inverness Caledonian Thistle is no longer in administration after agreements were reached with its creditors. Businessman Alan Savage has taken full control of the club, which got into difficulty last year. Christopher and I will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy your evening and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.